So I had written this big talk on how I was finding difficulty in balancing working construction full time and still being able to facilitate groups and do everything that goes into that, and still have a normal life and do all the ins and outs that that are required for actually just existing. Keeping my house clean and eating, remembering to eat. That's a big thing that I forget a lot. How many of y'all forget to eat? Like all the time, right? Like it happens to me constantly. And so I don't know exactly how the universe took that, but I guess it decided that a sure way for me to have more time was to relieve me of my livelihood. So now here we are back to no security, which I'm kind of used to at this point. So where the talk was on effort and discipline of still being able to get everything done that I need to do and work and exist. Now the talk has kind of shifted to balancing discipline and effort into finding work and just still being able to do all of the other things that I need to do. So where it went from working too much, now I'm not working enough and scrambling to find work. So my effort has shifted. And, there was a certain amount of ease that really came from having a steady full-time job. I didn't have to think about where the next job was coming from. I could just show up and do what I had to do and leave. And so that was nice for the time that it lasted. But as I talk about all the time, right, all things are impermanent. So it didn't really shake me too much when the job ended. I was like, of course it ended. Why wouldn't it end? Obviously it was going to end at some point, sooner than I expected. But just as the job was impermanent, so is this period of instability that I'm going to be experiencing. And so now I get to try to navigate my way out of this situation, and that too is going to take a fair amount of effort and discipline. And so the talk tonight is on basically that, on effort and discipline and doing the hard shit. Just doing the things that we don't necessarily want to do or that can be a little challenging. As the Buddha said in the Dhamma, he said, by effort and heedlessness, discipline and self-mastery, let the wise one make for oneself an island which no flood can overwhelm. And so, because of that, like I said, tonight I would like to talk about effort and discipline and doing the hard shit, both in meditation and in our lives, both with this practice and just in our normal everyday life. And as a meditation instructor and a pretty serious Dharma practitioner, I've found that cultivating effort and discipline is essential for personal growth and transformation and awakening. Not that I'm some sort of fully realized being by any means, but maybe one day, with effort and discipline, right? In the Buddhist tradition, we often talk about the concept of right effort. And in the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha said, what monks is right effort? Here a monk generates desire for the non-arising of unarisen evil, unwholesome states. He makes an effort, arouses energy, exerts his mind, and strives. He generates desire for the abandoning of arisen evil, unwholesome states. He generates desire for the arising of unarisen wholesome states. He generates desire for the maintenance of arisen wholesome states for their non-decline, increase, expansion, and fulfillment by development. So what the fuck does that mean, right? Basically what it means is that we need to cultivate a strong sense of effort and determination to move into the direction of wholesomeness and skillfulness. So this is where when we're having discursive thoughts, it's kind of like gaslighting yourself, basically. That's what right effort really comes down to, is just shifting your mental state. So it's taking the negative and then either kind of doing like the silver lining thing or just completely gaslighting yourself, which the Buddha recommended a lot, quite honestly. Alan Watts once said, discipline is just doing the same thing over and over again until it becomes a habit. Right? So it's just repetition. And that takes effort because we won't always have the motivation to do the things that we need to do. But when motivation fades, discipline shows up. And has anybody heard of Jocko Willink? I'm sure you've heard of Jocko. No, you haven't heard of Jocko Willink? That's how I'm surprised. Anyway, Jocko Willink has this quote, and it's discipline equals freedom. And basically what that means is that by being disciplined and doing the shit that we need to do, we allowed ourselves the freedom to do the things that we want to do. By going ahead and not procrastinating, by getting out of our own way, by just doing the things that we need to do, we open our lives up and have this sense of freedom. But why is it so important to do the shit that we need to do? One reason is that difficulty builds resilience. By doing the hard things, we're building our resilience. I know some of you do the cold plunge thing. Excellent way to discipline yourself and build resilience. You absolutely, I'm pretty sure, do not want to get in that cold ass tub of water most of the time, but you do it because you know it's good for you, and you know that the outcome is going to be in your favor. In neuroscience, we know that when we encounter a challenge, our brains create new neural pathways in response. And this means the more that we do hard things, the better equipped we become to handle them in the future. The Buddha said, just as a trainer might strike a pupil with his hand, with a stick or with a rope, so that his pupils, though struck, would be even more diligent in the practice of physical training, so too should a monk reflect. Even though painful, the painful feeling that arises in me will not invade my mind and remain. By reflecting thus, he attains the second jhana. And I think you heard me talk about jhana a couple of weeks ago. It's this state of meditative absorption, which can arise joy and a rapture. This principle applies not just to meditation, but to all aspects of our lives. So by doing the hard things, we become stronger. We increase our resilience and we become more capable, both mentally and physically. As we develop discipline and right effort, we cultivate the kind of mind that's capable of responding to whatever life throws at us. We can come to this place of equanimity. So let's start by defining what we mean by effort and discipline. Effort can be understood as the energy and commitment we bring to our spiritual practice or any other endeavor that requires focus, dedication, and perseverance. Discipline, on the other hand, refers to the systematic and intentional effort we make to train our minds and our hearts to overcome our habits, limitations, and delusions. And I know I still have plenty of habits, limitations, and delusions. I don't know about any of y'all, but personally, yes. In the Buddhist tradition, right effort is one of the Eightfold Path factors that lead to liberation and awakening or enlightenment, whatever way you want to put it. According to the Buddha, right effort consists of 4 components. The effort to prevent unwholesome states from arising in the mind, the effort to abandon unwholesome states that have already arisen, the effort to cultivate wholesome states of mind that have not yet arisen, and the effort to maintain and strengthen wholesome states that have already arisen. Like I said, you're just gaslighting yourself, basically. Which, I've heard that that's not good to do, but in this sense, I highly recommend it. And this can sound like a pretty tall order, but it's important to remember that right effort's not about achieving perfection. We don't have to be perfect. As long as we are putting in effort, we are doing the work. Perfection is not found in nature, at least not in human nature. We don't have to eliminate all of the defilements at once. It's just not going to be possible. But with effort over time and consistency, the more we put effort into this practice, the more we can eliminate these defilements of the mind. And by eliminating our defilements, we ultimately can relieve ourselves from suffering, right? So it's about developing a balanced and skillful approach to our inner and outer experiences. One that involves both effort and ease, and discipline and flexibility, persistence and patience. And patience is one thing that I fucking struggle with. Anybody here struggle with patience? Yeah. No, I'm very impatient at times. I'm much more patient than I used to be, but still very impatient. Like when I want shit, I want it now. It's my money and I want it now. But what are some of the hard things that we might encounter on the path of meditation and in our lives? I'm sure we all have a long list of shit that we encounter on the daily that can be difficult to deal with. in terms of meditation, one of the hardest things is simply to sit still and just be present with our experience. Without getting caught up in our thoughts and our emotions, without getting swept away by plans and judgments and narratives. This can be really challenging, especially when we encounter difficult or painful experiences. This is why I stress sila so much. If we get our ethics in line, then we have a lot less that's going to arise during our meditation practice. And because that's like the worst shit. The Buddha was like, he made it pretty evident. Like he was really clear about the fact that it's after a long day of like stealing and killing, it's going to be hard to sit in meditation. And I don't steal and I don't kill, but I've done some other pretty ill shit, and it made it really hard to sit in my meditation practice. He said in the Dhammapada, greater in battle than the man who would conquer 1,000 men is he who would conquer just one, himself. Yeah. So by learning to conquer our own minds, we become stronger and more resilient. And we cultivate the kind of awareness and insight that's necessary for true liberation. In our daily lives, we can encounter other hard things such as difficult conversations, challenges in the work environment, or challenges by not having a work environment anymore, or even like physical fitness goals. Like you go to the gym, that's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. Even finding the motivation to go to the gym is challenging, which is why, again, when motivation doesn't show up, that's when it takes discipline. I'm saying, I'm getting the fuck out of my own way, and I'm going to the gym. And I have to do that a lot. Most days I love going to the gym, but most days I'm just like, I don't want to go to the gym. And those are the days that I know that I absolutely need to go. I force myself to do the things I don't want to do. Forgive my language, but I have to like punk my inner bitch out. And I'm like, no, you're going to the gym. You are going to get up and you are going to go do the hard thing. You're going to go move a lot of heavy shit. Because I know it's good for me. My dad died when he was 50 years old. I was 20 when my father passed away. And I don't know if that dude ever went to a gym a day in his life. He was so unacquainted with the gym, he called it James. And, he ate a lot of fried food and drank Coca-Cola and really sugary coffee all day and smoked 2 packs of Doral Menthol 100s a day, and he died. He fucking died, because that's not how you should live your life. So after losing my father at such a young age, 50 is a really, really young age to go. And, I was 20 years old, and I didn't grow up with my dad. I barely knew him, really. But any opportunity to get to know him was taken from me, And I vowed to not live like that. I vowed to be as healthy as I could, which is kind of fucked up, because even when I was shooting heroin, I was still eating healthy for the most part. Which is fucking ridiculous. I was going to the gym too. It kind of seems kind of insane, which it is. But I did that. I would shoot heroin and go to the gym. It's fucking nuts. Looking back on that, it's very comical. But, as we learn to face these challenges with discipline and right effort, we become more capable of handling whatever comes our way. We can meet our experience with this sense of equanimity. And on my best days, I'm very equanimous. On my worst days, I'm a fucking crazy person. And that's why I stick with this practice, because I know that one day it'll just be equanimity. And that crazy person can take a break. So how do we go about cultivating right effort and discipline in our own lives? One way is to set clear goals. For ourselves, for what we want to do, and create a plan. Actually setting goals. Has anybody heard of SMART goals, the acronym SMART? So it's important to start small and gradually and increase the difficulty as we become more comfortable in our abilities and what we can handle at that moment. We can also find support and encouragement, within friends and family and sangha. We can lean on each other for encouragement. Kind of poke you with a stick and be like, no, go do the thing. Get out of your own fucking way. What are you doing? Do the thing. So yeah, SMART goals. So I think the first acronym is what? Specific. The first letter specifically is. Oftentimes we have a kind of a vague idea of what we want. So it really helps to narrow down what we want. If we don't know what we're aiming at, we're never going to hit our target. So we have to be very specific about what it is we want to do. The second is measurable. By measurable, we mean that we want to be able to gauge our progress as we move towards the specific goal. We need distinct markers that show us that what we're doing is actually having an effect. And the gym's really good about this. If you really want to see this in action, if you want to see SMART goals in action, start going to the gym. If you are eating well and you are going to the gym on a daily basis, there is absolutely 0% chance that you will not see changes. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't happen. There's no way you won't see a difference. So you can see these measurable goals. You can start to see that, hey, my shirt's a little tighter. Hey, my pants are a little looser, or whatever your experience is. But so it's measurable. It's important to have measurable goals. And there needs to be fact-based evidence that what we're doing is working as we progress, or we're not going to stick to it. We need to see results. I'm very result-oriented. Like, if I have abandoned 1,000 projects because I haven't seen results immediately. Most of the time, I just didn't give it enough time. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn. As I said, impatient. Attainable. So this focuses on how important a goal is to you and what you can do to make it attainable. And that might require developing new skills or learning new things. Maybe if you want a new job, maybe you need to get your resume together. Maybe you're going to have to go back to school. If you want to be a meditation instructor, maybe you need to take some training. That would be a good idea. Rather than just getting up in front of a room full of people before you start playing with their brains, you should probably get some training under your belt. I think, just personal opinion. You think about how to accomplish these goals. If you don't have the tools and the skills you need, you're probably not going to be able to accomplish the goal you want to accomplish. And that's going to take effort to attain them. The goal needs to be relevant. Relevance refers to focusing on something that makes sense within the broader goal. So does what we're doing, is what we're putting our effort and our discipline into make sense in the larger picture and the ultimate goal? If not, then we probably need to rethink our approach. And the T stands for timely or time-based. Anyone can set goals, but if it lacks realistic timing, the chances are that you're not going to succeed in your goal. A good example of this is my podcast. I started doing this podcast like 3 years ago, and I never really expected it to go anywhere or do anything. And that was probably my first problem, is having that mindset about it. But, there's millions and millions of podcasts out there. The likelihood that mine was going to go anywhere is pretty small, and remains small. But I just had a really cool guest on last night that I never in a million years thought I would actually be able to have a conversation with, but I did. It took 3 years to get to that point, but it happened. I still don't make any money off of the podcast, but maybe one day. So we have to just look at the time frame involved, and are we willing to stick with it? Are we willing to stick it out? Through the lean times and through all the bullshit and all the I want to quits and the I'm done with this, and can we stick with it? For things not so intangible as having a successful podcast, providing a target date for is kind of imperative. Like, I need this done in this amount of time. I need to see these results in this amount of time. But also just being gentle with ourselves. Shit's not going to happen on the timeline that we want it to happen on most of the time. If it does, you got really lucky. And I don't even really believe in luck, so I think that proper preparation and proper effort result in success. Another way is to just be mindful and honest about our strengths and our weaknesses, and to work with these in a skillful way. For example, if we struggle with procrastination or lack of focus, we can experiment with different techniques and strategies that help us stay on track and stay motivated and disciplined. This can be setting deadlines, breaking tasks into smaller steps, using visual aids or reminders. I still procrastinate about some things that I probably shouldn't procrastinate about. Now, not near as much as I used to, and I really feel like I owe this practice that. I feel like it's because of this practice that I really started taking my life into my own hands and not putting shit off. Like, if you want to get shit done, fucking do it. Don't talk about it, be about it. So another important aspect is to just, as I said, be kind and compassionate and gentle with ourselves. We're going to encounter setbacks. We're going to encounter obstacles on the way. We're going to fail a lot. Most of our endeavors, even the meaningful ones, will result in failure. And that can be a hard pill to swallow. There's a certain amount of acceptance that we have to know that things just aren't going to go our way all the time. But failure is really just another teacher saying, I've failed at a lot of the things that I've wanted to do in my life. But I don't view them as a failure. I view it as a teaching moment. Like, how can I reapproach this in a wiser way now? What can I do? What can I change? What can I tweak that it won't result in failure again? And failure is not a reflection of our worth. The most successful people in the world have fallen on their face 1,000 times. It's not a reflection of our self-worth. We are all equally valuable in this world, no matter how many successes, no matter how many failures we have. And so by practicing, self-compassion and self-care, we can give ourselves the space and the time that we need to recover and continue moving forward. Nobody's expecting you to just pick yourself up and dust yourself off immediately. Sometimes, fucking cry about it. Failure sucks. That's a shitty feeling. But it's necessary to build this resilience and to keep us motivated and to keep us going. It's also helpful to reflect on the deeper meanings and values that underlie our practice in our lives. Why are we doing what we're doing? What is the ultimate purpose and meaning of our existence? Why are we here? That's for each of you to figure out. I really feel like I am here to do what I'm doing right now. And I didn't know that for 39 years. It took me 39 years to figure out that, hey, go teach the Dharma. And I really feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I can't give you a reason for that, but at the end of the day, this is the most fulfilling thing that I do. Nothing feels better than these Monday nights to me. I feel like this is what I'm here to do. So what is your purpose? Why are you here? What is your existence for? What is the meaning in life? Well, that's for you to figure out, or for you to create. We create our own meaning. By connecting with our deepest intentions and aspirations, we can find a sense of inspiration and motivation that can sustain us through these challenges and through the ebbs and flows and the failures and the successes. So now I'd like to talk a little about the neuroscience of effort and discipline and how these qualities ultimately lead to building resilience and creativity and a state of well-being. So according to recent studies, when we engage in challenging activities or tasks that require effort and discipline, our brains undergo structural and functional changes that enhance our cognitive and emotional abilities. So just by going through the hard shit, we can enhance our cognitive abilities, like doing the cold plunging. We're building new neural pathways. I did cold showers for a long time. I've only done the cold plunging thing when I go to the river. That's my cold plunge. But and that shit's cold. You went to the river today, right? How cold was it?
It was very cold. I screamed.
So, research has shown that when we learn a new skill or practice a new behavior, we create new neural pathways that become stronger and more efficient with repeated use. So the more we do a thing, it's like that Alan Watts quote, the more we do a thing, the more disciplined we become. Just by sheer habit. The hard things become a habit. And this means by practicing discipline and effort, we can literally rewire our brains to be more efficient. Which sounds pretty awesome. Like, sign me up for that. Like, if I can have a more efficient brain, sign me up, please. Because for a while it seemed kind of inefficient, for sure. Studies have also shown that when we face difficult or stressful situations, our brain releases hormones and neurotransmitters that help us cope with the stress and build resilience. So we're actually creating chemicals within ourselves, endogenous chemicals that help us get through difficult shit. Cortisol, which is often associated with stress and anxiety, can actually be beneficial in small doses. It helps us focus and mobilize our energy to face the challenge. So this kind of works with the limbic system and the amygdala. It's this fight or flight response. It's like a call to action. Have you ever noticed when you feel extremely anxious about a situation, say it's like a public speaking engagement or something like that, where you feel this nervousness and you feel kind of like your stomach drop, you feel like your stomach kind of gets queasy. What's going on is the blood is actually moving from the internal organs to the limbs so that you can run. You may have to, if you feel like you need to use the bathroom. That's the same thing. Your body is trying to void itself so that in case you have to run away, you don't have the extra weight. It's pretty interesting. Some of these things that we can do to face our lack of discipline, meditation, ice baths, anything that requires stepping out of our comfort zone. And that can be hard. That's the whole point of exposure therapy, is to build this resilience. Just doing the shit we don't want to do. So by embracing the challenges and difficulties of this path and of life with a positive and proactive attitude, we can create the conditions for growth and for learning and for transformation to occur. Ajahn Chah once said, if you let go a little, you'll have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you'll have a lot of peace. But of course, that's easier said than done. As humans, we're wired to seek pleasure and to push away pain. We push away from discomfort. We push away from uncertainty. And this is why it can be so difficult to maintain our efforts and our discipline when we're faced with challenges. And this is also why mindfulness and self-compassion are so important. By cultivating a non-judgmental awareness of our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, and by treating ourselves with kindness and understanding, we can learn to navigate the ups and downs of the path with more equanimity and resilience. Sharon Salzberg said, real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the single step. It really does just take getting out of our own way and going, okay, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. The first time I facilitated Gulf Coast Dharma, I was nervous as shit. Boy, it was hard for me to get up in front of all y'all and talk. It was a nightmare. But I kept doing it. And I created this resilience. And now it just feels like so much at home. It's just gotten so easy for me to sit up here and talk to all of y'all. So real change, enduring change happens one step at a time. And this means that we don't have to make radical or drastic changes to our lives or our practice to experience growth. We don't have to do anything immediately. We can ease our way in. By being kind and gentle with ourselves, we can just ease ourselves into these difficulties and these challenges. It's small and consistent efforts that we make every day that add up over time, that create lasting change. So basically, kind of to summarize, the path of meditation and life in general require effort and the willingness to do the hard things, to do the shit we don't want to do. By cultivating right effort and discipline, we become more resilient, capable, and aware. And by facing challenges head on, we create new neural pathways in our brains that allow us to respond more skillfully in the future. And by being kind and compassionate with ourselves, we can create the conditions for growth and transformation. As we continue on our paths, I would love for you to all just reflect on this quote from the Buddha. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. I say this all the time. What you frequently think and ponder upon becomes the inclination of the mind. So let's cultivate a mind that's strong. Let's cultivate a mind that's resilient. That's up for challenges. That can do the hard shit. So that we can all just be the best versions of ourselves. The people that we were meant to be. The people that all of our conditioning is preventing us from being. Because I believe in all of you, and I know that you can do it. You all have this Buddha nature. You all are capable of this awakening. It takes effort, and it takes discipline. So, for this meditation that we're going to do, I'd just like to invite you all to reflect on your own relationship with effort and discipline. What challenges and obstacles you're currently facing in your practice and in your life. What strategies and techniques have worked for you in the past, and what new ones can you experiment with? And remember that the path of meditation and self-discovery is not always easy or comfortable, but it's ultimately rewarding and fulfilling. And by cultivating right effort and discipline, we can overcome our limitations and delusions and awaken to our true nature of wisdom, compassion,